The early 2000s was the wild, wild west for pop culture. Baggy jeans, bucket hats, flip phones, coordinated denim outfits, Nickelodeon slime, the list goes on and on. Pixar's latest film is Turning Red, which follows a 13-year-old Toronto native named Meilin as she takes on the 8th grade, which sounds hard enough until she learns she turns into a giant red panda every time she gets excited. The movie takes place in 2002, and as you could imagine, it's filled with references and Easter eggs to the early 2000s. It was honestly a treat to 90s kids, and it makes me very warm inside to see my childhood represented in such warm regards. Let's take a stroll down memory lane together and relive the early 2000s that happened 20 years ago. Oh my god.
Something feels different.
The children nowadays will never understand what it meant to send a text using T9, which means texting on a 9-key phone. Those were the days. We were so fast at it too, which blows me away. The film did a wonderful job showcasing the middle school obsession with texting and the classic phones we did it on. The beautifully sleek flip phones, the extendable antennas, and of course, the OG Nokia 3310, which is renamed Jokia in the film. The memories. Turning Red featured Tamagotchi in a big way. Throughout the film, Meilin always had time to take care of her pet, regardless of what was happening to her. Very responsible. Which is more than I can say about my older sister, because she must have killed hers every week. Tamagotchi was released in 1996 and became all the rage for all the kids and the teens in the early 2000s. Meilin's mom's red panda, spoiler, was even captured in her own Tamagotchi. If you were around back then, you know how important they were. This one is pushing a bit to 2005, but who cares? It's still the same era, baby. Meilin's friend Priya holds up a book called Nightfall, which is a vampire novel. Now, I don't even have to explain to you how big Twilight was or the vampire craze in general during that period. Twilight was everywhere, man! I couldn't escape it. I'm embracing it now because I'm watching Vampire Diaries for the first time, and let me tell you, that's fantastic. But that's beside the point. The 2000s would not have been the 2000s without a lot of things. One of them including vampire, young, love novels. That sounds weird. In real life in the early 2000s, teen celebrity magazines were massively popular. In fact, my house was filled with them. Thanks to my older sister, not me, although I did read them. In the movie, we can see the boy band Four Town,
more on that later,
on the cover of Tween Beat magazine, which is a play on the real-life magazines of Teen Beat and Tiger Beat. Too bad they've all been replaced with Twitter. At its core, Turning Red is a classic coming-of-age story, and nothing says more coming-of-age during the early 2000s than a Disney Channel original movie. It's been noted that the story for Turning Red has been inspired by Disney Channel original movies like Luck of the Irish, where a teen boy learns he's part leprechaun, Wendy Wu, where a Chinese-American girl is reincarnated into an ancient warrior, and 13th Year, where a teen boy turns into a mermaid. You can see they all share a common theme of transformation and coming of age. In the beginning of the movie, we can see Meilin holding her instrument case with a bunch of stickers on it. One of the stickers says Y2K A-OK, which stands for Y2K, which was when all the computers in the world were supposed to fail at midnight on January 1st, 2000, and a thumbs up indicating she survived the event. Since this movie takes place 2 years after the supposed Y2K, it makes sense that the sticker is still there. They were everywhere, man! A big part of the movie is the obsession with the famous boy band Four Town. Director Domi Shi was heavily inspired by the boy bands of yesteryears, like NSYNC and O-Town. The concept and sound were so reminiscent of the 2000s era that the reaction Meilin and her friends had when the boy band was brought up struck a huge chord with anyone who listened to music in the boy band era. During the movie, Miriam gives Meilin a burned CD of Four Town's Australian tour, and just seeing the CD with the handwritten titles and doodles on them really brought us back to that era. Burning CDs, trading them at school, giving them to our crushes. That period of time will never be replicated. Good times.
Take it, Bo! Take it! Stop it!
One small detail I can't believe I missed was in the arena during the performance of Four Town. The 5 boys are in all white, which is very similar to the all-white fashion era for the Backstreet Boys album Millennium, and their I Want It That Way music video. It's worth mentioning that the dance moves that Four Town does are even the same dance moves, man! How did I not notice that? A huge part of the 2000s was the fashion, and it ruled, man. Meilin and her friends really knew how to accessorize, and I'm glad this fashion was an included element in the movie. They are shown wearing what every teenage girl wore in the 2000s. Friendship bracelets and chokers. The gel and hemp bracelets and the black stretchy chokers really bring me back. Mostly to running away from girls at the skate park and cheap cologne. Why would I spray the cologne if I was just gonna run away? Anyways, to be 10 again. One thing I will never forget is that all of us punk and emo kids wanted to dress up as either Avril Lavigne or Pete Wentz from Fall Out Boy, and that's even captured in the movie. In the beginning, after Meilin turns for the first time, when she's back at school, we can see her drooling over a boy named Carter, who is rocking some black eyeliner and some long black emo hair covering his eyes. Maybe I'm just a moron, but I just now realized that emo stands for emotional. Wow, I need a moment. If you're an eagle-eyed movie viewer, you may have caught that Meilin's backpack, as well as a few others, are the brand Bagsport, which, of course, is an obvious and hilarious reference to JanSport backpacks of our childhood. I don't know about you, but I feel like everybody in the 8th grade had these. They were all the rage. During the money-making montage, we can see Meilin's enemy-turned-friend, spoiler, Tyler, standing in line wearing a Bandaid on his cheek with a headband on. If you don't know, and I can't believe I have to be old and explain this, but Nelly was all the rage in 2002 with his signature headband and Bandaid on his cheek. Early 2000s hip-hop was a weird time. The attention to detail in this movie is just fantastic. Even during the party scene at Tyler's house, the radio is playing classics like the Cha-Cha Slide and Bootylicious, all on a very accurate CD player. Just hearing the Cha-Cha Slide was enough to fling me back into time to a middle school dance party. It wouldn't be the early 2000s without the Simpsons. They were everywhere, so naturally they had to be thrown into Turning Red. Super early in the movie, Meilin is walking into her family temple for the first time, and she greets the 2 red panda statues that guard the gate as Bart and Lisa.
Hey, Bart. Hey, Lisa.
Of course, referencing the 2 children in The Simpsons. If you don't know that, wow. A lot of us grew up watching Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the list goes on and on. Anime was a huge part of our upbringing, and you'll notice that the anime style is incorporated in Turning Red. Domi Shi said she was inspired by the anime series that defined her childhood. The snap zoom, the whip pan style of anime is heavily present in the movie and really gives the feel of a 2000s anime vibe.
I like boys! I like loud music! I'm 13! Deal with it!
Back to the boy band craze, Domi Shi said in an interview that she really wanted to make the boy bands multicultural, even though they pay tribute to the bands of the era. Domi wanted to pay homage to the K-pop boy bands that she was into in college. One of them with a modern twist. One of the members, Taeyoung, is actually a shout out to BTS, and they look identical. Meilin's crush is Devin, who is the clerk at the Daisy Mark. He can be seen sporting a bucket hat and a shell necklace combo that exudes extreme 2002 hot guy energy, and it really brings me back in time. If you had that combo, boy, you were the hot guy on the block. We can see that Meilin's classmate, Stacy, is rocking the iconic hair trend of the time, the butterfly clips, that every girl on my bus wore. Famously portrayed by one of the matriarchs of our time, Elizabeth McGuire. And finally, we have a very small attention to detail, the watches our characters wear. A big part of the early 2000s was the watch fashion. We can see Abby rocking a Casio Baby G-Shock, which was an iconic watch. We can also see Meilin rocking a calculator watch. And I'm ashamed to admit that I had one too, and I still sucked at math. Come on! It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. For every Kevin Federline, there was a Justin Timberlake. The early 2000s was an era filled with colorful pop culture and fashion, and to see it represented in such a movie is fantastic. It was a breath of fresh air from the current standard of making movies set in the 80s or 90s. The 2000s is where it's at, baby.
Abby, hit me.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, the early 2000s was a fantastic time, and I'm holding on to it tightly, as you can tell by the toys and video games I have behind me. But regardless, that was a trip down memory lane, and I'm glad we could share that together. What were some of your favorite nostalgic references that you saw in Turning Red? Did you see any that we didn't? If so, let us know in the comments below. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching.